forecast, I'm Cheryl Golden for AM 860, The Answer.
For everything from questions about cucumbers to homes on cul-de-sacs, you've come to the right place. Welcome to the Ask Mr. Greenthumb in Real Estate Show with Stan DeFreitas, the dad, and James DeFreitas, the son. For the next hour, call in with your questions about gardening, growing your favorite veggies, and growing your profits in real estate. Locally, call 813-289-1860. Toll free at 877-969-8600. And now your hosts, Stan and James DeFreitas.
And a big good morning or good evening, depending on when you're listening. And if you could be listening, of course, on Facebook or YouTube as well. So we are glad that you're there in whichever form or universe you may be in. We are here, of course, to answer your questions, trees, shrubs, plants, veggies. I am happy to say that I got my earth box out. My son kind of helped me move some stuff around the other day. And with my earth boxes, which you can get down at Ellington, right down there by, it's Ellington, I should say. We all want to say Ellington, but it's not Ellington.
You really do want to put that G in there, don't you?
You want to, and I still do. After all these years, I find myself still wanting to put the G in there. Ken, how are you? Good morning.
Fine, thank you. Good to see you, Stan. I've been away on vacation the last time you were live here, so good to see you again. Seems like it's been a long time.
Were you traveling up north, or were you having kind of a staycation?
It was a staycation in conjunction with all the pirate celebrations and everything.
Oh, cool. Well, that's always fun. It's funny. I know it's here, and a lot of my friends used to get on the pirate boats and stuff, and I never did. But
I mostly watched Gasparilla. I didn't really get involved all that much.
You don't want to get hit in the head with some beads or anything?
Yeah, no, I know. I did that in New Orleans for a while. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that sounds like fun. So it's good to have you here. And how are things in Sun City Center?
Pretty quiet as usual. We like it that way.
Yeah.
I did notice, though, and we briefly talked in the hallway here, I was going to bring this up, because I know I'm trimming my palm trees more than everybody else in the neighborhood. Does that mean I'm watering them too much or not watering them enough? Or what's going on here, Stan?
Probably not so much water. It's just probably you're noticing it more than most people. I would say older fronds can turn yellow and they'll die first. That happens, of course, and I don't worry about that. I do worry about middle growth starting to have problems. I would say that most people don't fertilize their palms like they should. They go, it's there, it's a tree.
Boy, I never fertilize a tree.
Yeah, I know you don't, and that's the reason I'm going to chastise you just a little.
Well, we don't do that in Chicago, that's right.
Well, I know it, and that's the problem. When I've given home shows talks, and I've done hundreds of them, I usually ask folks, how many of you are from somewhere else? And just about everybody is from Ohio or Michigan or New York or one of the northern states. And that's fine. We love you. You are part of us. But I find they all come and say, we didn't have any palm trees in Chicago. And, if we did, we saw it in the mall, or we had a little tiny thing that we had, in the brightest window of our house. You might see some of the office buildings would have some palms, but they usually had to bring in some artificial light to keep them going.
So, yeah, we don't know anything about them. Yeah.
So palms ought to be fed like most other things, probably at least 3 times a year. And as a rough rule, I usually say February, June, and October. So spring, summer, and fall.
So you just go to the store, look for your palm tree fertilizer?
Palm food.
Really?
And it'll be, palm and then food on the bag usually. You can use other things. I will say palm foods, typically it will be maybe, it could be similar to a 666. It could be like an 842. A lot of times we're getting lower nitrogen or we're getting lower on the phosphorus. And so they're trying to not have as much phosphorus in fertilizers because it helps, they think, spread some of the algae and things, get it to grow. But I also would try to keep it so it's where it's supposed to be, near the palm. Don't throw it onto the driveway or down into the street. Don't put it in an area where it won't be, washed off into the water. We want to be good citizens, not bad citizens. And I maintain if you put a little bit of fertilizer on your palm, you are not the big culprit, which I think is funny. Let a big corporation spill millions, if not billions, of gallons of water that are tainted, and you go, oh, oopsie. It makes the headlines that day, but reporters normally don't follow up and go, now they have on occasion, but I maintain that water. When you start putting that much nutrient into the water, you start increasing your chance of bad things happening, and
But I can do it 3 times a year. We're
we're
pretty much safe.
with a palm food. Usually it has extra manganese in it. It may have extra magnesium, which is one of the macro elements.
So I'm not going to get arrested or anything like that.
No, I don't. You're not supposed to do it in the middle of summer, I guess. But
Or probably when you're watering, you should probably turn your water off that day for sure.
Well, if we could incorporate it into the ground even a little bit. None of us do that. We tend to just sprinkle it on the surface, and then it kind of washes in as we irrigate, or you can take a hose and put it in. But I sometimes will use a little bit of extra Epsom salts or magnesium sulfate around a palm because it'll help green it up.
Did you tell me what you put coffee grounds around there?
You can put coffee grounds just around about everything. I put coffee grounds on all my veggies, and I put it around my lemon and my lime. Well, I don't have a lemon right now, but lime, I've had lemons in the past. Citrus, avocados. In coffee grounds, there's about 0.5% of nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. And that's the elements that you have as fertilizer when you go buy, let's say, 666. If you go buy 666 at the fertilizer store, at the nursery, garden supply center, it's going to be, there's 18 pounds in a 100-pound bag. So you can divide that in half. There's 9 pounds in a 50-pound bag of actual ingredient. Now, there's a lot of what I call hamburger helper in there as well that kind of helps something they can put the fertilizer in with to make it spread even.
Mm-hmm.
So, and some of the fertilizers where you pay a lot more, they're going to be very customized, look like little BBs.
Yeah, I've seen those.
Yeah, and normally you're paying $50, $60 a bag. And Ken's going, hey, do you know how much my cigarettes are costing? Fertilizer or cigarettes? Cigarettes. So
You're right, Ken.
I know how you think, Ken, and I know how most
If
people
that's the
think.
choice. Sorry, Tree.
I was saying to our newest intern here, or I guess aren't going to be my new board up. We were talking about in the old days when I was a kid and your parents smoked in the car, you just sat there and kind of held your breath. And you didn't have a right to say anything. Today, kids would normally speak up. But
The guy in the car next to you will speak up.
And so that is fun. And I'm glad to see my newest board up she said she's part black and part Japanese. So I was giving her some ichi sanshi, and she goes, only I remember is domo arigato doitemashite. So we were talking, I know a little bit of Japanese from my 20 plus years of doing martial arts, but I think she's going to be a great addition to our team here on the weekend, and is going to get his much deserved Sundays off. So he's chomping at the bit to get his Cocoa Puffs and watch cartoons. So the transition will be complete.
All right, now, I took the liberty of pulling February up on my calendar here, and you can plant just about any time this year, this month, just about anything, it looks like.
Yeah, just about any, if you're talking like flowers and things.
No, I'm just talking about food. If you're trying to save some money on food these days.
Oh, yeah.
Beets, broccoli, cabbage, carrots, cauliflower, celery, all should be planted right now. Beans, lettuce, mustard, onions.
Yep.
Peas, potatoes. I didn't even know you grew potatoes down here.
We're not Idaho, but yeah, you can. I've raised potatoes before. They're kind of fun. Usually you get little pieces, little chunks at the nursery that have little eyes on them. The eyes you normally are trying to cut off in the kitchen. You want actually more eyes, or better, and you could actually use a store potato if you have one that has a bunch of eyes and it's gone past that point where you go, it's looking a little dry and there's too many eyes. You could cut that up into little sections about an inch or two and put that into your soil. I put out the other day some lettuce, some broccoli, some cabbage, some tomatoes, And I figured, a $950 retail value.
Yeah, at least.
So-
Yeah, the thing is, though, when you grow these, all of a sudden you've got all this food in 6 months, or how long does it take?
Oh, a lot shorter than that. You're talking normally 60 days.
60 days, okay.
Or less, maybe 55 on the tomatoes. Lettuce is going to be used in the next probably 55 to 60 days.
Yeah.
So
How long will they last? That's what I'm getting at. After you, because the one thing I remember, my dad used to have a garden.
mhm.
He always had more food than we could possibly, eat. So my mom's freezing beans and things like that. Is that the best way to handle it?
That's a good thing to do. Yeah, it's good to store food because you're right. I mean, how many kids were having beans for the 5th day in a row?
That's right, exactly.
And kids are going, yeah, how about another veggie? So, yeah, you can freeze them. That's a good way to do it. And some of the vacuum pack things are kind of fun. You can pull all that air out, and they can really last a long time in your freezer. I mean, probably 6 months to a year.
And do what you do every time you've got something growing. You
I
usually
have.
share it with the neighbors, not share it, yeah.
I share a lot of stuff. And my neighbor sometimes, John, probably gardens more than I do. He tends to bring over, well, actually, his wife is more generous than he is. She tends to bring stuff over, some different tomatoes and stuff. And for a while there, I had problems walking around in the garden, so I didn't do much for years and years. And even now, I've kind of got everything up off the ground, so I don't have to, my problem is getting down, and getting back up is sometimes a problem for me. And so it's just, every few years I figure your cards are redealt, and then you got a new deck to play with. And but I missed it. I really did miss the idea of puttering in the ground. I mean, I was growing avocados and bananas and carambolas. I mean, I try to practice a little
It's
bit.
a way of life with you. Yeah.
It's kind of what I preach. So I think people should, relax. You're listening to the news about all the horrible killings and shootings and balloons that are blown out of the air. And you're going, what can I do? Well, gardening is a good alternative because you can pound on the ground and enjoy the world. Make sure if you want to give us a call, we're here live today. So hit that speed dialer right here on AM 860, The Answer.
Want to talk real estate? Remember, you can reach Stan at 727-423-4794 or on the web at AskMrGreenthumb.com. Broken air conditioner? Keep your home's AC running smoothly all year long with Easy Breezy AC. With thousands of active commercial and residential customers, Easy Breezy AC is Tampa Bay's most trusted HVAC company. Easy Breezy AC cares about those in need. Donate 2 cans of food and receive $20 off a $79 service call. Go to EasyBreezyAC.com and use promo code GreenThumb for an additional $10 off your service call. Call 727-856-HVAC. Life's hard. Comfort's not.
Why choose Stafford Tree Service? Is it because they're experienced, have the latest equipment, and friendly professional personnel? Absolutely. Stafford's positioned themselves as a leading tree trimming company in all of Tampa Bay. With honest professionals and competitive pricing, they'll earn your trust too. In business for over 15 years, Stafford Tree Service is licensed, bonded, and insured to provide you the very best tree trimming experience. Call today, 727-546-8786, 727-546-8786. On the web at StaffordTreeSVC.com.
Biophilia, our innate attraction to other living things. It's why people love plants. And around Tampa Bay, Plants, that's Plantz, is bringing nature inside in workspaces and homes by delivering beautiful foliage plants. Our plants increase oxygen and filter out pollutants, reducing stress and improving productivity. And get you in touch with your biophilic side. Go to plantz.us.
Join like-minded conservatives for an evening cigar and great conversation with national radio host and conservative icon Dennis Prager on Wednesday, March 8th at Corona Cigar Company in Tampa for the Great American Cigar Tour. This is an exclusive VIP event with very limited seating, so reserve your tickets today. Platinum VIP ticket holders get exclusive time with Dennis before the main event. Go to theanswertampa.com and get your tickets now to join Dennis Prager on March 8th for an evening of cigars and great conversation. Sponsored in part by Corona Cigars.
At International Diamond Center, nobody tells our story better than our own non-commissioned diamond experts.
In the 17 years that I've been in this industry, I have never been able to offer my clients the things that I can offer at IDC.
What's best about our company is that we have access to far more options than most retailers typically do.
None of us are paid on commission at all, so our interests are pure.
We always encourage people to shop around because we know that our prices are good enough. You will be back.
It's not a selling environment at all. We want to know what's most important to you and help you get there.
We take care of your ring for life. We invite you in as an extension of our family.
It's about helping each client achieve what they want, to become a hero.
When we approach it in such a straightforward manner, it's refreshing. They almost look at you with a sigh of relief, like you take the mystery away.
The merchandise that we have is unmatched. The prices that we have are incredibly competitive. Our quality is unsurpassed.
International Diamond Center. Discover the difference. Our people. Get store hours, directions, and more at shopidc.com.
Thank you for the amazing job you've done in moving my first book forward in the publishing process.
Ludi Cotton Darnell's book, Ashley, Alex, and the Mystery Twins, was published with Zulon Press.
This is an exciting time for me.
Have you got a book for a Christian audience? Want to control the publishing process? Your free publishing guide is at christianpublishing.com.
I thank the Lord that Zulon Press has made it possible.
Visit Zulon Press for your free publishing guide at christianpublishing.com.
Welcome back to the Ask Mr. Greenthumb and Real Estate Show. Connect online at askmrgreenthumb.com. Got questions about gardening, real estate, or both? Locally, call 813-289-1860. Toll free at 877-969-8600. And now, your hosts, Stan and James DeFreitas.
And this is the dad, Stan. James is off, but I am here. This is a live show this morning. So if you've got some questions, hit your speed dialer, 813-289-1860 or 1-877-969-8600. We'll put you on the air with us. And a lot of folks say, gosh, you and James sound a lot alike. Well, yeah, we do. I said I've been using the voice a few more years than he has. But yeah, other than that, we do sound very similar. I usually refer James to most of the tough real estate questions. James is a broker. He has a brokerage called Dream It Real Estate. And so if you've got a question, he's a smart young man. He can help you with your questions there. We try to help a number of people. And I will say that, we do kind of equal. People sometimes say, well, how do you get gardening and real estate together? And I go, well, it's simple. Because anybody that has real estate probably has some plants in their yard. And you probably have some palms like Ken does. And you're probably not fertilizing your palms like Ken does. and if you've got oak trees, nobody fertilizes their trees. I just went out and looked at a palm recently, Ken, and the lady or the guy actually had it. I was looking at his palm, and we injected his palm because I think he had some signs of the bronzing. And that's where that middle row starts going yellow. And it's a disease. It's a mycoplasm, which means it's like a bacteria and it's bacterial-like. But it's also almost has some traits of a virus because it tends to invade the cells themselves, and it doesn't have a true cell wall, which most bacteria do.
Can you save a tree like that?
Well, what we can do is we can inject it. We use an old antibiotic that they used to use for people, and it's called oxytetracycline. And we actually put a little port in a tree, and we inject into the tree with a hypodermic needle. And so it's fancy. We do have to come back about every 3 to 4 months and re-inject. And I tell people before we start, if you want to start the program, realize we have to continue.
For the rest of the tree's life or how long?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
You can't get rid of it eventually.
No, because there is no immune system. You can talk to the good doc coming up after us, and he can explain to you, and people with white cells, they go after and try to kill anything that's invading. In fact, one of the problems I have as a transplant person that has a new organ in me is that my white cells typically want to go after my new organ. And so I take stuff that stops, immunosuppressants that stops them from going after the new organ. Because if not, that's what they would do. But now, typically, white cells are going through us all the time, and then they increase in number quite a bit when you have an infection. Something's coming in. The body goes, there's a problem. It usually increases with a lot of extra blood flow, and the white cells go after the invaders.
So a tree has kind of a circulatory system. Huh?
Well, it does have it, but it doesn't have white cells. It doesn't have red cells either, like we have. It doesn't have. We've got red cells that help with our oxygenation and things. Plants have kind of a system. They've got a phloem and xylem tissue in oak trees. Phloem tissue bringing water up, and the xylem tissue bringing water up, and phloem bringing the food tissue back down. Now, palms are a little different. Palms are a big grass. They're in the monocot family. So if you cut down a palm, it looks like a bunch of straws.
I didn't know that.
And it's called vascular bundles. And they kind of have their xylem and phloem in those bundles, those little straws that are going up and down. But, neither palms or trees have any kind of immune suppressant system. The only thing an oak tree can do, if there's an invader, you'll see it try to grow around something, like a gall. It'll try to grow over it, and it'll try to grow together. If there's a wound, you'll see it kind of compartmentalize on the edges. You'll see it roll in on that side of the wound.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a theory by Dr. Shigo from the U.S. Forestry Service, and it's called compartmentalization, and that's what a tree can do. Palms can't do that even. Palms are grasses. If they get a big hole in the side, they can't do any compartmentalization. You got a hole that's going to be there for the entire life of the tree.
They don't go pounding any nails in there.
Shouldn't go any pounding nails in the tree, and that's something they used to do a lot. People would go, oh, there's a good palm. Let's put a hole there and put there in a garage sale.
I actually almost did that this year myself.
Well,
I was going to hang a Christmas decoration on it.
Sure. And then you find out that if it doesn't ever fill that hole, even if we use an injector, let's say we have to move the port eventually, we may use it a number of times, but then we have to put a new port in the tree. We actually have to put something in there and fill that hole because the tree won't be able to fill itself. And what you don't want is a lot of moisture and stuff getting in there, and then bacteria and other potential diseases, really taking off.
Yeah, I was smart enough to check Google first before I put a hole in my palm.
Well, or you could have called your local Mr. GT here, but I do find one of the reasons I think a lot of people today do go to Dr. Google. Of course, the other day I was talking to my doctors and my heart doctor group, and I said, I and Dr. Google have made this decision. and of course, you'll have to run that by Doc.
We've talked about that subject a couple of times, yeah.
And sometimes they're right. I was complaining because statins sometimes cause me a problem. It seems like I get some muscle problems. And they said, well, you can try to go off of it, and then we do a blood test on you all the time anyway, so we'll do a lipid test and see if your fats are within the region where they should be. I think it works, but I was telling the girl, I said, they make $19 billion a year with statins. You sometimes, and who paid for the research on this last study? Oh, well, it was paid for, over half by the pharmaceutical companies. I sometimes wonder, it's kind of like having the fox, guard the hen house. And
a little bit, yeah.
We'll run that one by Doc sometime too, about what he thinks about most of the funding when it's being done by the companies that are looking for an outcome. It's kind of like the when we were getting our COVID shots, we all lined up and said, we will get our COVID shots. Well, it turns out they said, if you get the COVID shot, according to our president, Biden said, you won't get COVID. Well, it turns out, I guess, Joe didn't get his Google.
He's behind on his memo.
Doctor degree yet. So that seemed like that was false. There's no two ways about it. I can tell you, I had all 4 COVID shots and I still got COVID. So it didn't do it. And I think it's funny. One of my relatives who is kind of over in the super far left camp, she goes, "Wow, the reason you got COVID is because you're not always a big masker." And I said, "Well, I don't mind being a masker, and I'll wear a mask when I need to, but they don't work." And she goes, "Oh, but Joe and the boys say it does, and whatever's said by the crew must be correct." So I said, well, listen to the Doc show after mine, and he can school you up on what masks do and don't do. I think he did a whole segment on that as well.
Oh, yeah. Doc was heavy into that early on.
So, yeah, he's usually – and then you usually find, about 6 months after whatever the Doc says, they come out and said, yep, that proves exactly what he said was true.
Yeah.
So,
And when Fauci got started there with the don't put any mask on, Doc said, no, you're wrong. Get that mask on.
Well, first Fauci said don't wear a mask, and then he said do wear a mask, and then he said don't, and then do, and then don't. But
it just ruined his credibility from the start.
Yeah, so it makes you kind of wonder. Anyway, you all stay with us as the Plant Talk, Real Estate Talk continues. If you got a question, give us a call right here on AM 860, The Answer.
Want to talk real estate? Call James DeFreitas at 727-254-7127 or go online, aflre.com. Did you know that Stan DeFreitas, Mr. Greenthumb, can come to your house and examine your plants, trees, and palms? His knowledge can help you become the envy of your neighborhood with lush, green, healthy trees that don't just live, but thrive. Palms and oak trees are part of what makes Florida a beautiful place to live, but they get diseases and are often cut down. We offer ways to save your trees. Call or text Stan today at 727-423-4794 or go online to AskMrGreenthumb.com. That's AskMRGreenthumb.com.
AM 860, The Answer. Listen on our website, theanswertampa.com. 3.7 FM. W229DJ Dunedin. By downloading the Answer Tampa app or on TuneIn or Odyssey. Here's the latest from the Answer News Center. AM 860, The Answer. Online at theanswertampa.com. 860, The Answer.
Are you paying too much for your health insurance? Are your deductibles too high? Or are you completely uninsured? If you answered yes to any of these questions, Healthcare Help Desk can help you now when people need help the most. Health insurance laws and rules have changed. If you have Obamacare, are uninsured, or your premiums are too high, call Healthcare Help Desk. It's free. New healthcare plans are available, and you may qualify for dental coverage and lower copays and deductibles. Make the free call now. Top quality coverage at the lowest prices anywhere. You may be paying too much and not even know it. In these troubled times, healthcare is more important than ever. Don't let another day go by without health insurance. Policies are being offered with very low copays and deductibles. So if you're uninsured, underinsured, or paying too much, call Healthcare Help Desk.
800-820-6058. 800-820-6058. 800-820-6058.
Bill Bunkley here. Pastor Ralph Yankee Aro and I are heading back to Israel and Jordan this summer, and we want you to come along. It's just $45.95 double occupancy for you to join us, but space is very limited. A $700 deposit secures your spot with final payment not due until May the 10th, giving you time to budget. To see all the places on our 10-day pilgrimage to Israel and Jordan, June 24th through July 4th, go to BillBunkley.com or call me at 813-264-2977.
Welcome back to the Ask Mr. Greenthumb and Real Estate Show. Got questions about perennial flowers? What about issues with closing on your newest property? Locally, call 813-289-1860. Toll free at 877-969-8600. And now your hosts, Stan and James DeFreitas.
And we are here to answer your questions. I say we are live today, so if you've got a question, give us a call, and we'll try to answer that question for you. Take a look at your trees. Take a look at those palms. And, if you're like Ken and you haven't fertilized ever in your life,
yeah.
It might be a good thing to do that, Ken. Small bag. If you don't have a lot of room, and you probably don't down there, just get enough to do what you need. You probably have enough to store 5-pound bag, 10-pound bag.
Oh, sure, yeah.
And then you could put that out. And
how much do I give them at one time?
Probably, I used to give a few pounds per inch of diameter of the trunk.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I'm not going to put it up against the trunk. And I mention that because sometimes in the old days, I remember hiring some guys to put some fertilizer out for me, and they'd start just throwing it at the trunk. And I go, no, make a circle away from the trunk, a few inches at least, and because you don't want to have those salts might burn. And I did want to mention, too, we have a nice, beautiful condo through Dream It Real Estate, and it has 1900 59th Avenue North, number 112, and you will find that it is very pretty, and at $145,000. And I say that because it's hard to find anything in St. Petersburg at that price point, and especially something that's as nice. They've got, and I find shuffleboard, and they've got they've got a beautiful pool, and they've got a nice library. I was very impressed. I went to their library and looked at it, and I said, boy, they've got a ton of books. And so I was quite impressed with the library. And by the way, you noticed I pronounced it correctly. I hate it when I hear announcers going about the library. And I'm going, and you are the, 10 o'clock news or 11 o'clock news, and you're talking about a library?
That's right, and it costs $100.
I thought,
$100, $100.
So, yeah, my mother was an English major, so I used to go around telling her, it don't make no never mind to me, and she would just go, would pull her hair. That how could I be? Now, my mother had been a Shakespearean actress. She'd played Puck. And
you were doing it on purpose, too, weren't you?
I did. I did it just to yank her chain a little bit, which all boys tend to do.
But you were talking a little bit, what's real estate and gardening got to do with each other a lot,
Oh, sure. You look at the front, the curb appeal.
Curb appeal, right.
Curb appeal. When you look at place, you go, well, that's pretty. I like the palm, or I like the hibiscus. I like the tree or a fruit tree. My wife jokes I would have every square foot probably in a garden if I had my rudders, and I probably would. But she is sweet. She goes along with it. Yeah, if you want to I have some bananas, and I've got carambolas, and I have avocados, and I just go, you could have that tree, or I could have something that actually gives me something. And then I look at I go to Publix, and it's, $2 to $3 for an avocado, and it breaks my Scottish heart. I'm sitting there, but I'll break moan lick nick na nick if it's not.
How long,
Scottish.
if you planted, say an avocado tree right now, how long would it be before you had avocados?
I would buy a grafted tree, or if you raised one from seed, then I would bring it in when it had about the pencil-sized stalk.
Well, let's go with the grafted. I wouldn't do the seed.
Yeah, well, I could graft it for you. But or you could look at my book, Stand to Fridas, this complete guide to Florida gardening, and we actually have a little diagram in there. See this beautiful book, a perfect Christmas gift for everyone on your list. I know it's not Christmas now, but buy it now.
Birthday, the gardener's birthday.
Actually, you'll probably have to buy it from me because I think we're totally out of print in all the bookstores. Anyway, I'd buy a grafted tree, and you should probably get fruit from a grafted tree in about 3 years.
I guess that's not too bad.
Now, why would you think it's 3 years and probably 10 or 12 from a seedling? I'll quiz you.
Why? Well, it takes you got to grow from scratch. It's going to take longer.
It takes longer. Yes, immature wood.
Yeah.
If you're grafting, you're putting mature wood onto the seedling, and that mature wood is already ready. It's more mature. It's ready to start. It's
got a boost. It's got a head start.
Yeah. It does. In fact, my avocado right now is in full bloom. I am just thinking it is jamming out there, and I really like it because the bees are just happy. They're out there getting their nectar, and they're also doing the job of pollinating. Otherwise, I have to put on these big wings and buzz around the tree, and that's a problem.
That's something you have James doing now, right?
Yeah, I'm going to have James out there on a ladder with a paint by numbers brush going, make sure you hit every flower. And I've got him on some projects now because I can't do as many things as I used to do. So he's doing a lot of my projects that I might have, not that I was ever the builder. He is. He has an innate ability to look at stuff and make things fit. I usually take a hammer and say it will fit eventually.
I'll make it fit.
Yeah,
That's right.
But so yeah, there's you mentioned a lot of the different veggies. I like veggies. I mean, when you start looking at tomatoes and peppers and eggplants and things like that, that's the Solanaceae family. They like the sun the best. If you've got some shady spots, you might think of lettuce. I like to grow romaine, but you can grow broccoli and some of the greens.
In a garden box, are they good there too? Can you get anything out of that?
I like them. Yeah, I raised. I have a lot of earth boxes that I used to do commercials for, and if you're down there seeing my friends at the Ellington Earth Box Research Center, tell them, hey, where's Mr. Greenthumb? Because I talked to them recently, and I'm having to convince them that Mr. Greenthumb is still alive and well, and yes, his fans and would love to come see him. And so we might still get something going this spring.
That could be fun, yeah.
Yeah, it's fun. And I like earth boxes because it's got a little filler tube. It's got a little reserve in the bottom. So if you forget water a little bit, it doesn't automatically die.
Oh, that sounds like something for me.
It would be perfect for you. So you could go. Only in your case, you'd probably be growing some tobacco. But
no,
that would be the only problem there. I am growing some stevia. I'm growing some
what?
Stevia.
What is that?
It's a natural sweetener.
I have never heard of it before.
Well, it's you probably have seen it. It's sold under a couple different names. Sold under stevia, and it's an artificial. Well, it's not artificial. It's a plant sweetener, but it doesn't have all the bad side effects of the pink stuff, or even there's some debate about the yellow stuff, which I sometimes used. But stevia, what I'm going to do, it's like 20 times sweeter than sugar. And
no kidding.
So you can cut it up, and you can freeze it, or I'm going to probably wait till it's going to be tough for me. But I'm probably going to wait till July, then take the whole plant, and I'm going to cut it up, and I'm going to store it, and because I do go buy some of the stuff that has stevia in it. And it's expensive. You'll spend $8 or $9 for a little small box.
Okay, how do you use it now?
Well, it's in little packets, kind of like you do the yellow and the pink stuff.
All right.
Only the stuff that I use, you tend to. It's better for. It doesn't raise your blood sugar at all, and not that I have any real problem with that now. The only time I was a diabetic is when they made me one in the hospital when they were feeding me, 1,000 milligrams of. Well, I'm trying to think of the material that caused it, but it was one of the things. In fact, I remember shaking one night, all night long, for like 24 hours.
Wow!
And it was a prednisone. They had me on like 1,000 milligrams. What they want to do is just nuke your immune system, so it doesn't
reject the heart.
It doesn't reject the heart, and it tends to. If you can get past that early stage of rejection, you normally are better off. And like in my case now, it's good. After the first year, I'm coming up almost to my second year, and it's hard to believe that it's been that long. But so that's good. And but I can say when they first gave me the prednisone, I literally shook all night long, and it makes you angry. At least for me, I was like, and I was, it was
like a frustrated kind of feeling.
They had me, they had like a frustrated feeling. They had me across from where they open up the doors for the meds. And I was also on the floor over there at TGH where the helicopters come in and out. And I thought, they came in like 6 times that night. I said, but who's counting? Yeah. And, of course, the doc came in the morning and he goes, how come you look so tired? And I said, well, let's go over that, doc. 4:30 you come in for x-ray, or 3:30. 4:30 you come in for blood. And then you have to do the change at 7. So...
And got helicopters landing in between.
And they had helicopters coming in, even though I thank the helicopters because they probably brought my organ that saved my life. Mm-hmm. So I actually thank those guys because I said, hey, thanks for bringing the organ in. I really appreciate you guys, flying around and saving lives like you do. And they do.
Yes,
so
every one of those flights is important. Yeah.
So I really couldn't be. But I found myself aggravated because about 2:30 in the morning, everybody's really conked out. Most of their patients are. I was wired, and I said, look, tell them to quiet down a little bit out there, or I'm going to have my fanny flapping in the breeze, and I'll go out there and tell them to be quiet. And they may not like that. And
nobody wants to see that.
Yeah, I was going to say, when you're flapping like that, it's the reason they call it ICU. Anyway, So that's how I felt. Now, of course, I'm just taking my maintenance stuff and everything is good. But going back to your palms, if your palm does get into a problem and you start the injection program, you need to continue doing it. And the same thing I would say true for borers and trees. They have a nasty habit of coming back. We were talking about cancers and stuff earlier. I was talking with my new board up, and she was saying, we're talking about cancers, and I was saying cancer does seem to have a nasty habit of showing back up. And that's one of the reasons you're on a constant program for them to check you. And some of these disease problems with plants tend to show back up. And borers tend to often get into a tree, and they can cause trouble because they start eating into the system, and then the tree starts to shut down.
I know in Chicago for a while, they were chopping down every maple or ash tree in the Midwest or something because some bug got in it.
There's a lot of diseases that have occurred that often they're brought in from somewhere else. And then there's no, the trees just seems to go from one to one to one to one. Dutch elm disease for one.
That's what it was. It was Dutch elm.
Dutch elm up north. Yeah, we don't have that many elms down here, so we didn't really have
They
that.
chopped them all down. I swear they did.
Well, yeah, they didn't have a cure for it. I mean, they can try things like what I use, the oxytetracycline. It might work. They can try, but it gets to be an expense. You sometimes have to come back and say, do I want to treat the tree? Well, in some cases, if a tree's been there for 150 years, maybe you should fight to try to keep the tree going. At least that's my attitude. The trees take in carbon dioxide. They give off oxygen. They do all these good things for us. So, not to mention the squirrels and other birds love to have a home site. And if you cut it down, you're taking that away.
I guess they were trying to make like a firewall. You cut down as many as you can just to protect yourself from the rest of them.
After some diseases sometimes really get going, sometimes trying to get rid of the vector, if you will, is important. Anyway, you all stay with us as the plant talk, tree talk, and real estate talk continues here on AM 860, The Answer.
Interested in having a home consult? Remember, you can reach Stan at 727-423-4794 or on the web at AskMrGreenthumb.com.
Why choose Stafford Tree Service? Is it because they're experienced, have the latest equipment, and friendly professional personnel? Absolutely. Stafford's positioned themselves as a leading tree trimming company in all of Tampa Bay. With honest professionals and competitive pricing, they'll earn your trust too. In business for over 15 years, Stafford Tree Service is licensed, bonded, and insured to provide you the very best tree trimming experience. Call today, 727-546-8786, 727-546-8786. On the web at StaffordTreeSVC.com.
Biophilia, our innate attraction to other living things. It's why people love plants. And around Tampa Bay, Plants, that's Plantz, is bringing nature inside in workspaces and homes by delivering beautiful foliage plants. Our plants increase oxygen and filter out pollutants, reducing stress and improving productivity. And get you in touch with your biophilic side. Go to plantz.us.
Oil investments involve a high degree of risk and actual results may vary. Oil and natural gas keep going up as the Russia conflict escalates. Get in on the next major oil boom now and help the U.S. with your patriotic investment that can potentially pay you monthly income for up to 20 or more years. That's the sound of a producing oil well and the sound of a smart investment. If you're an SEC-accredited investor and have at least $25,000 liquid now, you can take advantage of Encore Energy's projects and a huge tax savings for this year. If you invest in oil and natural gas, you're allowed to write off nearly 100% of your investment in the first year. Goldman Sachs is projecting oil to go up to $100 a barrel, and natural gas is the fuel of the future and trading at record prices. Call 800-287-6691. Encore Energy is a major investor and experienced operator in its core area of operations. Call now and learn how to deduct 100% of your investment and create 20 or more years of potential monthly income. Call 800-287-6691. That's 800-287-6691.
Welcome back to the Ask Mr. Greenthumb and Real Estate Show. Connect online at AskMrGreenthumb.com. Got questions about gardening, real estate, or both? Locally, call 813-289-1860. Toll free at 877-969-8600. And now, your hosts, Stan and James DeFritas.
And James is off, but I am here, and that means you want to give us a call. We've got a few more minutes in this top of the show, so we are live today. I think it's the 18th, and that means you can call it 1-877-969-8600 if you're outside the area, 1-877-969-8600, or 813-289-1860. We've been talking a little bit about palms. You should be fertilizing them if you haven't. You should probably apply some extra manganese and magnesium. I was thinking about putting some magnesium around some of my veggies and some of my my avocado just to help. The magnesium helps in the iron uptake. So often when you put Epsom salts around something, it helps bring the iron up and you get a greener looking plant. I was looking at also one of old Lewis Maxwell. He was a great character. I don't know how many of you might remember Lewis Maxwell, but he was a real smart guy when it came to knowing plant material. Had a little series of books. They were black and white. They were stapled together was my biggest problem, and they were black and white photos. And I thought he could have gone with color, and I think people would have paid more for the book. But that's what I did with mine. I wanted 300 color prints in my book because I thought people wanted more, quality. Not to say this information wasn't good. But one of the things he mentioned, snapdragons, on his annual book, and that's one that isn't used nearly as much as it used to be. But it's usually planted a little before now, but you probably still could if you found them. You might have to start them from seed. Normally, I'd start them in the fall. For that, but I did try to start some marigolds recently, so we're going to see if my marigold seeds will come up because I like bright colors of oranges and yellows and things of that nature, and I just love to see that any of the members of that composite family, all that daisy group, all tend to have those pretty hello daisy-like flowers, and even some of our weeds are in that group, and they also tend to have the pretty flower. I know it's crazy. I sometimes will see some of the weeds, like some of the daisy weeds growing, and I hate to cut them down on the edges of the property because I see the bees out there. They're all happy with it, and I thought occasionally I have cut them down. I said, sorry, bees. I'm actually apologizing to them as I'm sometimes mowing them down because I don't want them all over the yard, but they are kind of a natural. And some people are taking out more of the grass and putting in more flowers and plants. And I understand that. There is some justification for that. We do spend a ton of money on, gas and mowing and keeping things of that nature. One of the things I noticed by a lot of the English gardens, cottage gardens, they will have a lot of flowers. Sometimes they'll cut back on the grass area to a minimum and just have a lot of paths with walkways and flowers, and often that'll be a mixture maybe of different kinds of annuals. Many of our annuals do well right now as far as planting. You might think of like wishbone flowers and daisies. We mentioned Gerber gloriosa daisies, rose moss, kind of a pretty little annual that has different colored flowers, multitude of colors, and petunias, of course. I tend to think of petunias. They can be planted usually this season. You may find them maybe easier just to buy a 4-pack or 6-pack from the nursery if you want to put some in a basket. I always seem like I have some hanging baskets where I've lost a plant over a period of a few years, and realize you can take that, maybe add some new soil to it, break that soil up a little bit, and then put in those little annuals, and you are set again for a new crop. You can save some of your seed. Actually, the lovely Mrs. GT has helped me on occasion where she will help me save some seeds, put them in a plastic bag. You can save those old flowers like on marigolds, and then you can plant them now about a 1/4 inch deep in some good soil, keep them moist, and they will sprout in probably about 10 days. And then you'll be back into the marigold business. So they will start again. Now you can buy seeds, of course, in packages, You can buy them, as I mentioned, in 4-packs and 6-packs, and that will go well for you. So if you've got some questions there about growing stuff, I can say with palms, with oaks, check them out. Most of us don't check them as often as you should. Sometimes people will send me pictures, and if they do, I ask that you send me a picture of the leaf and also maybe the flower if you have it. And if you're having problems, get in a tight photo of the problem. And I'm amazed how good the photos are that people can take with even just their iPhones. So you've got the technology there. You can go to Ask MR Green and then Thumb, and so Ask MR. So it's not spelled out, but MR Green and then Thumb. Send me the photo of your plant, and I'll look at it, and I can tell you what's going on. If there's something further, we need to make a home call. We do that. Normally, I bring James with me, and he can be my legs if there's something that I see that can be done for your trees, such as injecting palms or injecting oaks. I'm not super cheap, but I'm cheaper than having them removed. And there may be times where I'll say, hey, you need to call, Kelly Stafford Tree, and have her come in and take care of them. It's kind of like our buddies at Easy Breezy. If you have the air conditioning problem starting to make noise, the best time is to check then. Don't wait till something totally, dies and then call, because it's sometimes hard to get somebody out. And it always seems to happen, in the middle of the weekend when you start to have a problem. A lot of folks like to go with perennial flowers. I can understand that. A lot of folks like to have indoor plants. There are folks at Plants, Plantz, one of our sponsors, and Steve over there, Steve Stanford with Plants. We've had him in a number of times. And Steve, if you're looking for that plant to send to Aunt Martha in wherever, he can help box it up. He's got a team ready to send it off to her, and it's something they're going to remember. If you're not sure what to send, you know that by sending a plant, everybody loves plants. As they like to say, the biophilia, your innate ability or want to be with other living things. And plants do that. So I would encourage that. It may be, I was thinking of different indoor plants like aglaonemas and spathiphyllums, but there's all a range of some of the figs that are very popular now. I tend to like the fiddle leaf fig. I think it's interesting because it actually looks kind of like a fiddle, the leaf does. And you'll see it in many offices. So, and I was thinking it was good, a few years ago when we were under mandatory separation of where we had to sit, which I always thought was great. It's like the air over here, 2 feet from there, is way different than the air over here, which I thought was just nuts. You'd go in to see, to the restaurant, and they'd go, you have to have your mask on. So you'd put your mask on. And then they would walk you over 3 steps over. Now, here is your table or your chair. Now you can take your mask off, which I thought was the fallacy of masks. And it turns out it was just pretty much, I guess, a control state that we're going to tell you this works. Though I still see some folks. I saw a lady at the bank the other day. She had her mask on. She had their green gloves on, like you're going to do the dishes up to her elbows. And I said, what's going on? She goes, well, I'm a germaphobe. And I said, well, I had a new heart put in, and I'm not wearing a mask, and I'm not wearing my dishwashing gloves. But if you feel more comfortable doing it, more power to you. So I'm amazed that often we are sheep. I do see some balloons there in the control room. I'm not sure who that's for, but I'm sure we will be scrambling some jets later to make sure that balloon gets blown out of the sky with, I think what it cost, $500,000 to blow out a $12 balloon. Yeah, that kind of made sense. So, I kept thinking, I can just see a bunch of teenagers now out there going, hey man, we can get this great big balloon and flip it over there and send it off over Alaska somewhere. And we'll watch the F-15s come in and 14s and blow it out of the sky. I could see that being a field day. And I'm wondering what, for the folks out there that are all going to have their big balloons, as you get into the spring, summer, everybody likes to get into their hot air balloon. And one of my friends one time said, hey, I'll take you up in a hot air balloon. And I said, well, how do you steer this thing? Well, we don't really. We just kind of have a spotter that follows us. And I said, So that, I was wondering, it'd be nice if you had some way to know where you were going. Well, we're going with the prevailing winds. That's how we're going. And I thought, well, what about power lines? Well, we try to stay above those, especially those high-powered ones. Anyway, enjoy your life and garden. Get out there and look at your trees, look at your shrubs, see what's going on. If you need to give me a call, 727-423-4794. That's my cell number, 727-423-4794. And if you've got a plant question, we'll try to see if we can't set up a home call to come look at it for you. Until next week, take time to smell the roses. Go out there and look at your trees, look at the flowers, enjoy the bees, enjoy your life as much as you can. As old Teddy used to say, go out and live it up.
Want to talk real estate? Remember, you can reach Stan at 727-423-4794 or on the web at AskMrGreenthumb.com.